The Galactic Council chamber was silent. The great hall, once filled with endless debates, now held nothing but uneasy whispers. Representatives of various alien species exchanged nervous glances. The meeting was not supposed to be about humans, but somehow it always ended up there. "They are gone," one of the council members, a reptilian Selenar, hissed. "The humans disappeared centuries ago. Their worlds are abandoned, their fleets dismantled. Why do we still speak of them?" Because the whispers never stopped. Across the galaxy, space travelers, smugglers, and mercenaries told stories of a mythical human warship, a vessel so powerful that even the most advanced alien empires feared its return. Some claimed it had been destroyed in the last Great War. Others believed it had vanished into the darkest regions of space, waiting, watching. But the most chilling stories were from those who swore they had seen it. A ghostly warship, appearing out of nowhere, moving at impossible speeds. Entire enemy fleets had vanished without a trace, leaving behind only silence. The council always dismissed these stories as foolish rumors, but deep down, every leader in the room felt it, a fear they could not explain. Then the alarm sounded. A high-pitched siren echoed through the chamber, followed by a robotic voice. Unidentified vessel detected at the edge of council space. Classification unknown. Power levels off the charts. The room erupted into chaos. A ghost in the dark. Commander Valis of the Rix Dominion stood aboard his warship, staring at the holographic display. His fleet had been patrolling the outer sectors when the anomaly was detected. The unknown vessel was massive, larger than any known warship in the galaxy. But what disturbed him most was the energy signature. "Commander," his officer whispered, "it doesn't match any known species." That was impossible. Every ship, no matter how advanced, left a traceable energy signature, except this one. Valis activated the comms. "Unidentified vessel, state your purpose." "This is restricted space." No response. His officers exchanged nervous glances. No one dared to speak. The ship wasn't moving, just sitting there in the void, watching. "Scan it," Valis ordered. The ship's sensors reached out, but the moment they touched the vessel, the warship vanished from the display. Gasping, the crew rechecked the systems. It was still there, right in front of them, but somehow it was invisible to their sensors. "Sir," one officer stammered, his voice trembling. "I think it's human." Silence filled the bridge. Humans were gone, weren't they? The Council's dilemma. Back in the Galactic Council chamber, the leaders listened to the intercepted transmission from Valis's fleet. "It's human," the voice repeated. The room went cold. For over a century, the galaxy had believed humanity was no longer a threat. The humans had vanished, leaving behind ruins of once great civilizations. But if this ship was truly human, then they had never left. "Impossible," muttered a pale-skinned Cyric diplomat. Human technology was nowhere near this advanced before they disappeared. "But what if they advanced in secret?" another asked. The thought was terrifying. If the humans had hidden away, if they had been preparing, then what were they waiting for? And why were they returning now? First contact. Back in the outer sector, Valis's fleet held its position. The warship remained silent, motionless in the darkness. Then, without warning, a single message appeared on the screen. "You were warned." The lights on Valis's bridge flickered. The power levels on their ships fluctuated. Then one of their vessels exploded, without any sign of an attack. Panic erupted. The fleet opened fire, unleashing plasma blasts and missile strikes. But before the weapons could reach the warship, they vanished, as if space itself swallowed them. "Impossible," Valis shouted. Then, the warship moved. It was fast, far too fast for something of its size. Within seconds, it was behind them. A blinding blue energy surge ripped through another ship, slicing it in half with no warning. Valis had no choice. Retreat. The fleet turned and fled. As Valis' ship jumped to hyperspace, he saw the warship drifting back into the darkness. It let them leave, as if it had only wanted to send a message. The galaxy trembles. By the next day, every major faction in the galaxy knew. The human warship was real. The Galactic Council called for an emergency meeting. Some demanded war, others urged for diplomacy. But none of them could answer the real question. What did the humans want? And worse, how many more of their ships were out there? The news spread like wildfire across the galaxy. Every major empire, every warlord, every faction whispered the same name: humanity. For over a century, they had been nothing more than a ghost story, a warning from the past. But now, a real human warship had appeared, and it had destroyed ships from one of the most powerful fleets in the galaxy without breaking a sweat. The Galactic Council went into full panic mode. The Council's debate. The Council chamber was in chaos. Representatives from 100 different species shouted over each other. Fear filled their voices. Some demanded an immediate military response. Others wanted to negotiate. No one knew what to do. "The humans have returned," growled the warlord of the cruel Dominion, his red eyes burning with anger. "We should attack now, before they strike first, and risk total annihilation." A Solarian diplomat, a species known for their wisdom, shook his head. They destroyed a fleet in seconds. If this is the power of just one ship, what happens if they have an entire fleet? Silence fell over the chamber. That thought sent a chill through every leader present. The representative of the Seric Confederacy, a race of telepathic beings, stood up. His voice was eerily calm. "We need information. We need to understand why the humans have returned." The council leader, an ancient Xelenar, leaned forward. "Do we even know if this warship represents all of humanity? What if it's a rogue faction? A remnant?" The Seric representative hesitated. "We don't know, but can we afford to be wrong?" The question hung in the air. The council had a choice: treat humanity as an enemy and risk war, or reach out and hope they would listen. A deadly message. Meanwhile, the crew of Valis' fleet was still reeling from their encounter with the human warship. The Rix Dominion had lost 3 of its best ships, and yet they were the lucky ones. The vessel had let them leave. But why? Valis stood on the bridge of his command ship, staring at the encrypted message the humans had left behind. "You were warned." It made no sense. Who had been warned? When? By whom? Then, the ship's AI found something. An ancient transmission, over 100 years old. It was a message from the last war between humanity and the Galactic Council. A desperate plea from a human general, sent moments before Earth's final battle. "Do not follow us. Do not seek us. If you leave us in peace, we will not return. But if you break this truce, you will regret it." Valis felt his blood turn to ice. The Galactic Council had covered up this part of history. The official story was that humanity had been defeated. But what if the truth was something far worse? What if humanity had left willingly, warning the galaxy to stay away? And now someone had broken that truce. A warning ignored. The truth was, the Council had not left humanity alone. Over the past 50 years, secret operations had been carried out in the abandoned human sectors. Small scout fleets were sent to search for hidden human colonies or lost technology. But they had never found anything. At least, that's what they thought. What if the humans had been watching the entire time? What if this warship was not an attack, but a warning? And if that was true, what came next? The shadows move. In a hidden part of the galaxy, deep in a star system long forgotten by the Council, a massive fleet lay in silence. Rows upon rows of warships, larger and more powerful than anything the galaxy had ever seen, drifted in the darkness. Aboard the lead ship, a human officer watched the intercepted transmission from the Council meeting. A smile crossed his face. "They finally noticed us." His eyes flickered to the status report. The fleet was ready. The galaxy had been given its warning. Now, it was only a matter of time. And if the Council made the wrong choice, humanity would make sure they never got another one. The galaxy had been shaken. The return of a human warship had sent ripples of fear across every major faction. Rumors spread like wildfire. Some claimed it was a ghost ship, others believed it was a warning, and a few feared it was only the beginning. The Galactic Council was divided. Attack or negotiate? Prepare for war or seek peace? No one could agree. But in the darkness of space, far beyond the reach of the Council's spies, something even more dangerous was happening. A desperate plan. In the capital of the Galactic Council, Supreme Chancellor Myron stood in his private chamber, staring at the holographic report. The warlords were demanding action. The diplomats begged for caution. The military was split. And all the while, the name of an old enemy echoed through the halls. Humanity. Chancellor, a deep voice interrupted his thoughts. He turned to see Admiral Tsareth, leader of the Council's elite fleet. "We cannot sit and wait." Tsareth growled. "We need to act before it's too late." "And what do you propose?" Myron asked, though he already knew the answer. "A strike team. A small, elite force sent to infiltrate the human warship, gather intelligence, and, if necessary, eliminate the threat." The Chancellor hesitated. It was a dangerous move. If the humans were truly back, an attack might start a war. But if they did nothing? What if this is just a scouting vessel? Karath continued. What if an entire fleet is waiting beyond the sector? We need to know. Myron closed his eyes. There was no easy choice, but the Council needed answers. "Do it," he ordered. "Send your best." The Hunter Team. 3 days later, a stealth ship left the Council's main fleet, heading toward the coordinates of the human warship. Inside the ship, Captain Varric and his team prepared for their mission. Their orders were clear: board the human vessel, gather intelligence, and disable its systems if possible. But even the best soldiers in the galaxy couldn't shake the feeling of unease. "Doesn't this feel wrong?" One of the operatives muttered. "We're acting like humanity is already our enemy." "They are our enemy," Varric replied coldly. "Or have you forgotten the war?" The soldier said nothing. But deep down, he couldn't help but wonder. If humanity had lost, why did they still feel so afraid? The arrival. The stealth ship entered the sector, its cloaking systems active. From a distance, the human warship drifted silently in the void. No lights, no movement, as if it were dead. But Varric wasn't fooled. "They're watching," he muttered. "Stay sharp." His team approached the ship, docking carefully. The airlock opened with a soft hiss. Weapons ready, the operatives stepped inside. Darkness. Silence. No resistance. It was as if the ship had been abandoned. "Something's not right," one of the soldiers whispered. "Where is the crew?" Varric motioned for them to move forward. The corridors were cold, the walls covered in strange markings, human writing. Suddenly, a flicker of movement appeared on their scanners. Someone was here. Varric raised his rifle. "We're not alone. Stay ready." As they turned a corner, the lights above them flickered on. A figure stood at the end of the hallway. A human. But he wasn't afraid. He wasn't armed. He simply smiled. And then he spoke. "You shouldn't have come." The trap closes. Before Varric could react, alarms blared through the ship. The doors behind them slammed shut. Trapped. Their cloaked ship, still outside, sent an urgent warning. Something massive had just entered the system. More ships. Human ships. Varric's heart pounded. This wasn't a scouting vessel. This wasn't a single warship on its own. It was a beacon, a signal for something far worse. And now, the storm was about to begin. Fear gripped the Council as reports flooded in. The human warship was not alone. It had been a trap, and now a massive fleet had begun to reveal itself at the sector's edge. For years, the galaxy had believed humanity was finished, beaten, scattered, lost in the void. They had been wrong. Now, A terrifying question echoed through every command center. Where had humanity been all this time? And what had they been building? The failed mission. Varric and his strike team stood frozen as alarms screamed through the ship. They were trapped. The human standing before them, tall and calm, showed no sign of fear. "You came looking for answers," he said. "Now you have them." Varric clenched his jaw. "We won't surrender." The human smirked. "We don't want your surrender. We want you to watch." Before Varric could respond, the floor beneath them vibrated. A deep, ominous hum filled the corridors. And then, the warship's external cameras activated. What they saw made their blood run cold. The sky darkens. The Council fleet, still positioned at the sector's edge, suddenly detected hundreds of new signatures. One by one, massive human warships emerged from the shadows of deep space. Not sleek, polished ships like the ones used by the Council. These were brutal, monstrous, and built for one purpose: war. Their hulls bore scars of past battles. Their weapons hummed with power unseen in the galaxy for centuries. And then they moved. A message was transmitted to every channel. A single voice. "The exile is over." The lead human warship, larger than anything the Council had ever encountered, advanced forward. The Council commanders panicked. "Hold position. Hold." The first human ship fired. A blinding blue beam tore through the void, ripping apart a Council battlecruiser in an instant. Silence fell over the battlefield. Then the invasion began. A galaxy in panic. News of the attack spread faster than light. Every major faction in the galaxy turned its attention toward the sector. Some believed humanity was seeking revenge. Others wondered if the Council had pushed too far. But one thing was clear: the balance of power had shifted. For the first time in centuries, the galaxy wasn't looking at the Council for leadership. They were looking at the return of humanity. And nobody knew what would happen next. But one thing was certain: war was coming. Panic had spread like wildfire across the Council's fleet. They had come expecting a relic, a single forgotten warship lost in deep space. Instead, they had found an armada. The Council's admirals had always boasted about their fleet's supremacy, about how no force in the galaxy could challenge them. But as they stared at the incoming human warships, they finally understood the truth. They were outmatched, outgunned, outthought, and worst of all, outnumbered. The first strike. Admiral Threx, one of the most seasoned commanders in the Council, clenched his fists as he watched the human fleet advance. "All ships, form a defensive line," he barked. "Prepare tow." Boom. A human warship fired, unleashing a colossal energy beam that shattered one of the Council's lead cruisers before anyone could react. The explosion sent debris flying in all directions, tearing through nearby vessels. Screams echoed through communication channels. That was a battleship-class cruiser," an officer stammered. Threx's blood ran cold. It had taken only one shot. "Return fire," he ordered, desperation creeping into his voice. The Council fleet responded, unleashing a storm of plasma, torpedoes, and railgun fire. The barrage illuminated the battlefield, lighting up the void like a dying sun. But then something happened that no one expected. The human warships didn't even try to dodge. They absorbed the attacks, their hulls shimmering with strange energy barriers. What little damage they took seemed to repair itself instantly. And then they struck back. An unstoppable force. The humans' weapons cut through the Council's defenses like paper. The advanced shielding and armor of the Council's fleet, once thought impenetrable, crumbled within seconds. A single human dreadnought locked onto a Council command ship and fired. The ship, along with 5 others in its formation, vanished in a blinding explosion. "We can't win this," a Council captain whispered. Admiral Threx slammed his fist on the console. "We have to retreat." "Sir, if we turn our backs, we retreat or we die," Threx roared. But before they could make the jump to hyperspace, something else appeared on their sensors. something worse. The arrival of the flagship. The void rippled. Space itself seemed to tremble. And then it arrived. A ship larger than anything the Council had ever seen. A true human dreadnought. Its hull was black as night, absorbing all light, making it look like a hole in space itself. Strange, glowing red patterns ran along its surface, pulsing like veins. And then a voice echoed across all communication channels. A voice that sent a chill down every Council officer's spine. "You took everything from us." Admiral Threx's heart pounded. The voice continued, calm and steady, yet carrying centuries of rage. "Now we take everything from you." The Council fleet, once the mightiest in the galaxy, had never known true terror. Until now. The battlefield was a graveyard of burning metal and shattered ships. The once mighty Council fleet had been reduced to scattered wreckage, floating lifelessly in the void. But for the survivors, the worst was yet to come. Admiral Threx gritted his teeth, his fingers digging into the control panel as he watched his fleet fall apart. Every strategy, every tactic they had relied on for centuries, none of it worked. They had never faced an enemy like this. An enemy that did not just fight to win, but fought to end them. A desperate retreat. "Prepare for hyperspace jump," Threx barked. His officers scrambled to comply, their hands shaking as they worked the controls. The Council fleet had to escape. If even one ship could make it back, they could warn the others. But the moment they activated their hyperdrives, nothing happened. A chilling silence filled the bridge. "Sir, the jump drive is unresponsive," an officer stammered. "What?" Threx's heart pounded. "Try again." The officer frantically pressed commands, but the screen flashed the same warning. "Jump PF UR. Unknown NT or FA ANC DETCTED." Admiral Threx looked up at the main screen. And then he saw it. The human flagship was charging something. A massive, eerie glow began to spread from its core, pulsing like a heartbeat. A weapon unlike anything the Council had ever seen. And then, across all open channels, the voice returned. "You're not leaving." The weapon fires. For a brief moment, everything fell silent. Then, a blinding wave of energy surged outward. The pulse expanded at impossible speeds, engulfing every remaining Council ship. Engines sputtered, shields flickered, systems failed. Admiral Threx watched in horror as his fleet's ships became completely powerless. They were trapped. "Sir," one of his officers whispered, "they're not just destroying us. They're holding us here." Threx clenched his fists. This was worse than death. The humans' final message. The human flagship loomed closer, its dark hull a shadow against the burning wreckage. And then, a message appeared on every screen in the surviving Council ships. A simple text. "Now you understand." The screen flickered. More words appeared. "You thought we were weak. You thought we were gone. But we remember." Admiral Threx felt a chill run down his spine. This wasn't just about battle. This was a message, a warning, a reckoning. And then, one by one, the Council ships began to disappear. Not destroyed, not exploded. Simply erased. No remains, no escape pods, nothing left. And as Threx's own ship was consumed by the void, his final thought was not of victory, nor even survival. It was the terrifying realization that the humans had never truly been gone. They had only been waiting. The sector, once a raging battlefield, now lay in eerie silence. Debris from shattered ships drifted through the void, the last remnants of the mighty Council fleet. The airwaves, once filled with desperate distress calls and orders for retreat, were now empty. There was no one left to call for help. A lone survivor. Deep in the wreckage, one Council vessel still drifted, damaged, powerless, but intact. Admiral Threx sat in the dimly lit command center, his uniform stained with blood and soot. The emergency lights flickered, casting long shadows on the ruined walls. Around him, the bridge crew lay silent and motionless. He was the only one left. The hum of a nearby console brought him back to reality. A weak signal flickered on the display, an incoming message. With shaking hands, he pressed the command to open it. A single line appeared on the screen. "We let you live. Remember this." Threx swallowed hard. His body was frozen, his mind racing. This wasn't mercy. It was something far worse. A message to the entire galaxy. The galaxy reacts. Back at the Galactic Council headquarters, the leaders of 1,000 worlds gathered in panic. "The fleet is gone," one alien leader whispered, disbelief in their voice. "They were the best we had." Another added, This is impossible." The room fell silent as a final transmission from Threx's ship reached them. They watched as the human warship loomed over the wreckage, untouched, undefeated. The last message flashed across their screens. "We let you live. Remember this." The meaning was clear. The humans had returned, and they were no longer interested in peace. Panic spread through the chamber. Some called for war. Others urged surrender. But one truth remained. The galaxy would never be the same again. And somewhere, hidden in the depths of space, the human warship vanished into the void, waiting, watching, until the next time someone dared to challenge them. The aftermath of the battle left the galaxy in turmoil. The once mighty Galactic Council was now a fractured shadow of its former self. Dozens of member species had either gone into hiding or were too afraid to speak. Fear gripped the cosmos, but more than fear, it was uncertainty that haunted them. The humans had left, vanished. No pursuit ships dared to follow. No spies attempted to track them. The warship, the ghost of legends, had disappeared into the void, just as suddenly as it had appeared, and no one knew if or when it would return. The new galactic order. The destruction of the Council fleet had caused an immediate shift in power. Some alien factions now sought diplomacy with humanity, desperate to avoid the wrath that had annihilated their armada. Others wanted to prepare for war, though no one truly believed they could win. Rumors spread like wildfire. The humans have more ships. They have weapons beyond our understanding. They let us live. But why? Worlds that once dismissed humanity as insignificant now rewrote their laws. Some declared human space off-limits. Others banned any research into Earth's technology, fearing it would provoke another attack. The Council's remaining leaders gathered in secrecy, whispering the same question over and over. What do the humans want? But no answer came. A warning to the future. In the darkness of space, a single distress beacon floated. It had been sent by Admiral Threx, the last survivor of the doomed fleet. The message was simple. Do not provoke them. Do not seek them. The warship is still out there, watching, waiting. And across the galaxy, in the hearts of every species that had once thought themselves superior, a new fear had taken hold. Because now, humanity was no longer the hunted. They were the ones hunting. The warship was just the beginning.